Hello and welcome to another card making video. This afternoon I am going to make a card that has a lot of detail, so this may be a little bit long. We'll just have to wait and see. But I kind of laid it out. I cut some things out, laid it out, have it kind of figured out in my head, so hopefully it will work. I'm going to show you the papers that I chose to use. This is kind of a little, I don't even know, it reminds me of sunshine, and my card is about sunshine, so I pulled this paper, and then I'm just going to have a little bitty border with this paper. It's orange with a lighter yellowy orange polka dot in it. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little polka dot. And then this one is birch, and it is it's Paper Studio. It's birch trees. I thought it might have been aspen, but anyway, it's birch trees, and I'm going to use some of that. And then I chose, these are all of the die cuts that I cut out to use. I don't know if you can see, there's a little fence, and I'll show you the die cuts that I use. I take mine off out of the packages and put them on these magnetic things, so often I don't have the packages. I just happen to have this one. These are two different Sizzix thinlits that I'm going to use this double layer flower and then some of these flowers out of. I'll show you what those look like. Under here somewhere. This is the double layer one. I didn't take the others out, but this is one. I'm going to use this bigger flower. That's it. And then I have no idea. I think they're Tim Holtz, but I wouldn't swear to it. These are just a bunch of little branches that I love, and but I think they're Tim Holtz, but I don't have the packaging on them. And I think these, I use these little greenery branches, and I believe that they are also Tim Holtz. Nearly everything I have is either Tim Holtz, Spellbinder, or Sizzix. This I know is Spellbinder. This little picket fence I know is Spellbinder. I found it. So those are all of the die cuts that I used today. So I'm going to set these aside to use when it gets time for that. So the first thing I'm going to do is, excuse me, get across here, is I want to show you how I decided and laid this card out. I am going to use this sentiment on the front, and it says, "May your day be filled with sunshine," and it's got this kind of loopy thing. And so I wanted to make a template for my top of my card. So I just put this about where I thought I wanted it on the card and stamped it. I need one of those little Chucky tools. And I did it in black VersaFine, and then I heat embossed it, and that made it shiny and made it stand out just a little bit. And that's how I did it on the card. But the real thing I wanted to show you, this is how I made my little template. So let me get this out of the way. Because I want to do a top across the top of my card. So I did this, and then I just cut out like this. So that I knew what I could do across the top of my card. So there is the card. I'm going to show you the ink blending in a minute. But I wanted to be able to do this. Now I made this a little bit long so that I could cut it down, just in case, because I certainly wanted it to fill the top of my card. So that's how I made that template, to know how I was going to do the top of that card. And so that will come back into play in just a minute. I just used my Distress Oxide in tumbled glass for the sky, and I did that before, of course, I did that before I did my my stamping and my heat setting. I did clear. I stamped it in black, and then I did clear embossing powder and heat set it. And then I used peeled paint for the bottom part and just did this across the bottom just so that it would have that green look. And then that is the card, the way we're going to start with the card. Then we're going to start filling in everything that I want to do. I'm going to make this scene with the picket fence and the flowers. So I'm going to start with the sunshine, what I'm going to call the sunshine. So I cut down my cardstock to, this is an A2 card, and this is going to be the, not the whole A2 card. This is just a panel on the front. So it's 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And so here is this little template that fits across here. So I'm going to put that the way I want it on this. And then I'm going to move it around to the back without turning it over. And I will trace that. Get it somewhat straight. It doesn't have to be perfect because we can trim it off. But I'm going to trace that and then cut it out. So there we have that. Cut that out according to our little template. Just like that. There we go. And now we have our sunshine. Now I wanted to put just a little bit of a border on it, so that's what I used, the orange polka dot. But I want to do just a little bit of inking on this, just to kind of give it a little definition. Not much, but just a little. It just kind of gives the edge of that paper. And if you didn't cut it perfectly straight or have a little notch or something, it helps cover that up and blend that all in together also. Just go all the way around that. And I decided that I wanted my little things that look like sunshine to be going down. I looked at it the other way first, but then I decided that that was not how I wanted it. So that's going to go just like that, and then we're going to put this on just to make a very narrow border. So let's stick that on there. And then we will cut that out. You notice I'm using 2 different pairs of scissors, not for any reason. I like both of these little scissors. And again, just as evenly as we can. We're not looking for perfection. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to trim that off. This one is not perfect, as a matter of fact. I got a lot narrower down there. And then I'm going to also ink this one just a little bit. I think I used scattered straw on this other one, and I'm using walnut stain on this one. But again, just very, very lightly. Just to give the edge of that paper an ending. And you can see that there's a tiny little bit sticking out right there, and that is perfectly okay. Okay. Right, so then we can put our sky up there. On our card. there we have our little sky that mimics the shape of our sentiment. Okay, then my vision is that I want to put, this is a flower, but it kind of looks like a sunburst, and I cut these layers, so that was kind of, I think I want that there, and then we'll build this bottom part. So let's, I think I'm going to use a glue dot to secure this big one. And you know what? I think I'll actually use some foam tape on that one. It's got a big enough base that I can use some foam tape on that. And then I'll just glue dot the smaller one. That just kind of flew off. Okay. Like that. Give this a little bit of dimension. You know, you can always curl your edges if you want to with a pencil or your fingernail, just to give them a little bit of interest. Get that off of there. I'm going to set that right up here in the sky. And then use this one. Hopefully just use a glue dot on this one. To put the center in that. And that reminds me of a sunburst. Okay, now we're going to start building this lower part. And I want this little picket fence down here. That's why I've got the sky, the blue in the ink blending, and then just a little bit of the green. And this ink blending, you do not need to know anything about ink blending. It's just however it comes off, it will look just fine. But I think I want to touch the edges of this little fence with, I'm going to use black soot, but just do it very lightly. This birch paper really has a lot of, it just looks so neat. It looks like a picket fence that needs to be painted. I love it. But I want to just touch these edges very, very lightly, just so we know that we've got edges on this fence, on our boards. Just ever so lightly. While I'm doing this, because it takes just a minute, I think I'll go ahead and do the twist on today's, the twist today is I'm gonna tell a story on my little grandson. We were riding in the car the other day, and he was asking me about my husband who passed away about 8 years ago, and he said, that's just so sad that he was sick and couldn't get well. And I said, it is, but he's in heaven and he never has to be sick again. He never has to hurt again. And so he sat there and he thought a minute, and he says, they call me Gummy. And he said, so Gummy, does that mean if you're walking on that gold street up there and you fall off, that it doesn't hurt you? And I thought, oh, you know, that is wisdom from a child. That is absolutely wisdom from a child. You know, we don't know exactly what heaven's like. We're given a lot of descriptions. We know streets of gold. We know things like that. We know no more sorrow, no more pain. But we don't really know exactly what heaven's about. But the good thing is we know that it's real. You know, some people, I think, honestly have convinced themselves that they're just going to die and that's going to be the end of it here on this earth. But I'm afraid they're in for a rude awakening, because that isn't the way that I believe, certainly, that it's going to be. And so we just need to have that same childlike understanding of the things that God's promised us And heaven is one of those amazing things that we may not fully understand, but we can just take God's promise to heart. And I was telling about a story when I was young and dating, and I was in high school, and one time I was on a date, and this guy and I got to talking about things, and he just said, well, I just don't believe all that. I just don't believe all that. And I said, well, that's fine. But so we went on to discuss things, and finally I said, you know, you don't have to believe it. I mean, nobody's going to force you to believe it. But the thing is that if I'm wrong, and I believe that there's heaven and hell, and that we need salvation through Jesus Christ, and if I'm wrong, it's no big deal. You know, we're just going to turn to dirt, and everything's going to be okay. But if you're wrong, that's a pretty big deal, because you're going to be in hell for eternity. And needless to say, we didn't have any more dates. But that's just kind of that childlike ability to accept God's promises for what they are. So you can see here, I'm going to get back to the card making here. You can see I'm just putting some foam tape on the back of these pickets. And I'm going to leave the tops without any foam tape, because I'm going to be tucking some things in there. So we're just going to put our little fence right there. Get these peeled off. Kind of get my things over here twisted around. I don't know where you live, but I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and we are still having 100-degree days. I haven't listened to the weather the last few days, but over a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was listening to the weather, and we were in like third place for the most 100-degree days on record. And I would have to think that we've either tied that record or maybe even surpassed it. We have had so many 100-degree days and no rain. We got about a half an inch of rain one day last week. And that's the only rain that we have had in over 4 months. Our wheat fields are just brown. We are on water. I think I told you this in my last video, but we are on water rations. We cannot water outside at all. So my outdoor plants that I invested in are all dead. It's just sad. So we're gonna place these little sticks, we'll call them stems, around. And let's see, I think I want this one over here. We're gonna place these little stems around, and then we're gonna put these flowers on them. No, just exactly. We may move them around, but that's okay. We're making this card. We can if we want to. And I may not use them all. That's perfectly fine too. I just want to have some in the background here. I think I may cut that one down so that it's not quite so tall. Like that. And see, I want one more, maybe this one. This will cut it down. Stick it in there. Okay, I think I like that. And then I'm going to put the flowers around. So I'm just going to use my Nuvo glue, liquid glue. And I'm not going to worry about really gluing these down very well. They're going to stick if I get any on them. And I like them being loose so that they look free and natural. tip going down there. So let's get that moved up just a little bit. There we go. Thank goodness I smeared that glue that it dries clear and matte so it won't show, because I didn't do a very good job placing that in there. Let's get this one in there, down a little lower. Okay. This is kind of our main center focal point. I don't want it to really cover any of the sentiment going across there, but I don't mind if it goes up into it. Let's get this outside one, and then we'll place that other one. Yes, that's the right side. So we just about have our stems complete. I may actually stick another one, a little one in there, maybe not. We'll see what the flowers, where the flowers go, and then we'll decide that. I don't want that one the same height. Okay, ooh, I'm stuck to it. Okay, so that has our little stems, our little limbs in there. I'm starting to kind of like the way that looks, I think. Now I want a big flower down here, like maybe somewhere right over here. Let's turn that over. Somewhere over here possibly. And I've got the orange center for it to make it opposite of that one. And then I have this one, maybe somewhere right there with the orange on the outside of it. Or do I want to go yellow on this one? Let's look and see. Do I want orange underneath and yellow on top on that one? Yes, I think so. And then I've got a little one, so let's try it. Let's go yellow underneath and orange on top. Let's kind of put it down there a little lower. I think that's kind of the look that I want. So let's see how we can make that work. I'm going to use a little bit of foam tape on this one. It's easy to do this bigger one with foam tape because it's got that good big area to hide it. I want part of it over and part of it under, I think, the fence. Maybe like that. Maybe up just a little higher if I can get it loose. I don't know. Just a little higher. Maybe a little more like that. Yes, I like that. Okay, and then I think I'll just touch this with some glue and put it in the center. I'm going to use some Nuvo drops in the centers of these, I think is the way I'm going to do that. So let's see if we can get a little foam tape on this one as well. It has a fairly decent area to stick to. And put it right here on the fence, I believe. And then our yellow one on top. Kind of offset those so we can see through. And then our little one. I think we're just going to have to put our little one flat. I'm not going to try to get foam tape on it, but it's going to be on top of the fence, so it doesn't matter. Put it right there. And this one on top of it. And I think that's plenty of flowers. Yes, I do. Okay, so get some of this. I want to, no, I still need this. I want to put some of these in there and just, but I wanted the flowers in before I did the leaves, because I'm just going to tuck them in and let them, something like that. I like that, so I'm going to get it stuck in there, just barely put some glue in there. Stick it in there. I love this Nuvo Deluxe because you can just barely get some glue and you don't have to worry about it going anywhere. And then, let's see, maybe this one. Yes. And then let's see what we need. Either this tall or skinny one. Let's see if I can get that down in there. Okay, I think that needs to be cut off just a little. I don't want it sticking up quite that far into the sentiment. Let's see what we can do with this. But I do want it behind those limbs. I like that. Okay. Keep going down. It might have been smarter to put those on there before the flowers, but okay, I think that is how I want to leave that. If you wanted to do some enamel dots or something, you certainly could, but what I think I want to do is I want the centers of these flowers to show up. And so I'm going to, this is Vintage Photo Distress Marker. I am just going to paint the center of these three flowers, just like that. I'm not going to do the one up in the sky that is kind of representing the sun. I don't know that it really is, but I'm not going to do it. And then, let's see, I need to get my glue lid on. I want to use, these are just the crystal drops, and I'm going to just add a little bit of the crystal drop there. And when that dries, it dries clear, but you can see that brown center of the flower through it. I tried it on a piece of paper and it looked really neat. So that is the way I want to do that. Now, I should have put this on the card itself before I did all of this dimension. You know how that is. But I've got to wait until that dries. But I chose a gold that coordinates with this orangey gold in that to mount my card on for the actual card itself. But I wanted to do something to the inside of this one. So I'm gonna just set this aside for a second and show you what I want to do on the inside. This was a piece of 12 by 12 that I cut down to 8.5 by 11 so I could do 2 cards. It's white on the inside, which is great for making cards. I have no idea where this came from, but it's great for making cards. So I cut a piece of that, and I'm going to show you. Sometimes you just don't have the sentiment that you want. Like this says, "May your day be filled with sunshine." Well, I wanted to put something on the inside of my card, but I didn't have a stamp or anything that said what I wanted to say. And so I just typed it on the computer, and I put, "Your friendship is sunshine in my life." And what I do with these, I just make, this is literally in Word, where you can do a table in Word, and then I type my sentiment in, get it centered and spaced so that I have plenty of room around it to cut out around it, and then I just print it. I get the font that I want, and then I just bold it or whatever I want to do, and then I just print it on my computer. And then I can make as many cards as I want to. We make cards for our church, and so I have to have 15 or 16 of these, and I can just print them and we can cut them out. And so this is an easy way to do a sentiment to me, and I can say anything that I want to. In my Christmas cards, I type my poem for the year and do it the same way. So I'm going to set this aside and let it kind of be drying. I'm going to use this in just a minute. So we're just going to put this on here. I think I want to, can't get it picked up. I do think I want to ink the edges of it just a little bit. I love the look of inked edges. If you watch me at all, you know I love to ink edges. There's just something about that little bit of distress, or I don't know, whatever, that I like. So I'm going to do the same to this. To me, it gives things a boundary. And I haven't, which is evident, been trained by any of the scrapbooking companies or, product companies. I haven't had art classes. I just do it because I love to do it. But to me, when you ink the edges of something like this, it just gives it boundaries. And that's what I like about it. So we're just going to stick this little sentiment on there. I made the background a little larger, and I did that for a purpose. I'm going to not stick this down too good. I just want to kind of see where I want it. Okay, and then I'm going to do something with a couple of these things. I want to dress it up just a little bit on the inside as well. So I want to take some more of these that I cut. Let's see if I can get my picker upper tool over here. That one does not want to cooperate with me. So I want to do something where I have the little limbs and the greenery on this inside as well. So let's cut that stem down just a touch. And now that I kind of know where my little, getting kind of messy here, where my little saying is going to go, I can get a little bit better idea on where I want these things. So I'll put one there. Cut that down just a little. Put one here. And then put our greenery coming out of there also. All right, so let's see how that looks when we get our little, I'm sticking to it again, get our little card on there. I think I'm going to put a little bit of glue on this because it's got a lot to stick to. There we go. So now we have dressed up the inside of our card as well. And you certainly don't have to put anything on the inside of your card, but and especially if you're going to write a lot, if you've got a lot to write. But if you don't have a whole lot to write, I think it looks really nice to have something on the inside of your card. And if you use your computer and you print, then you can say anything you want to. You can find, you can go online and find, little things of inspiration. You can find poems. They're just, all kinds of options. Okay, so there we have our little inside. Your friendship is sunshine in my life. And then when these, you can see that these are already starting to dry clear, especially this little one. And I think it looks really good in the center of those flowers. And then I will mount that on there as soon as that dries. And there we have our card. So I hope you enjoyed making this and hope it put some sunshine in your life. And I hope you enjoyed the little devotional part. I know that some of you, I get a thumbs down every once in a while because I think it's people that don't particularly want the devotional part, but that's me, that's my life, and that's my witness. And so I hope you continue to come back and listen, and maybe you'll learn to enjoy it too. So there's our card for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and may God bless you. Bye-bye.